You ready for...
No, give me another half hour here.
Oh, God damn. Eric, I knew you were going to razz me. Here we go, Eric. Peak professionalism. Are you ready?
This is like Christmas lights. Ooh.
Yeah. There's even a remote. Okay, so let's start the show. First off, Eric, you know this. I've been texting you a lot.
Yeah.
I've been almost manically. Eric, we're going to revamp the podcast. I got this sweet light set up. I made a sign. I worked all day. And then I said, I'll take a little nap. That's fine, I'll take a nap. I didn't set a timer on my phone, which I usually do. And then I woke up to Eric at my door. And you know what I really should have done? I should have said, Eric, come back in 20 minutes. Let me get ready. But instead...
You may as well have.
I roamed around in a bathrobe going, Sorry, Eric. Do you know where my phone code is? Ah. What a stressful way to start the podcast. But it put us in a flustered mood, didn't it?
Yeah.
We're going to be aggressive. This is what? What is it? It's a religion episode.
It's a religion. It's a religion. There is definitely religious content in this episode.
I sense by the end of it, you will have converted to Christianity by my words alone.
Well, that will be something. I'm glad I'm going to be here to witness that. Because I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes.
You want to do the intro, Eric?
Yeah, I'll do the intro.
Okay.
Anytime.
Snap, crack, popple, and go.
Go? We're on?
Oh, yeah, we've been on.
Oh, well then, hello and Happy New Year, America. If you can hold out for 3 more days. That's just 3 more days. That's it. He is Harmonti, I am Hardrada, and we are Cybersphere, coming at you from an undisclosed location just outside the blast radius of the nation's capital, we hope.
Yes.
Today, friends, we are reporting, or we have some rather startling news to report. Some of you may actually find this a bit disturbing. Are you ready for this? In March of this year, it was reported that for the first time since we started tracking these things, regular church attendance in the United States of America had fallen to below 50%. Below 50%, Brandon.
Disgrace.
Has another doomsday clock started ticking? Is this setting God's beard on fire? Can we expect signs and wonders? What's the deal?
It's the year 2000 all over again. Everything's going to stop.
Well, that's what they predicted, and it didn't happen, as I recall.
It will happen this time, Eric.
Okay, well...
The Bible was very clear about that.
Well, I assume... Okay, and when you say that to me, you better have the Bible handy so you can show me.
I have read about 30 pages of it, so I consider myself a scholar.
Well, I've read the whole thing. Did I ever tell you that?
Every damn atheist has read the Bible.
Of course, that was a long time ago, but...
I think they're just bragging, Eric, because they're like, hey, I read a really big book.
Well, you think all those other atheists are just bragging, but I'm not? Or do you believe me?
I believe you, Eric. I believe it. You've read the Bible probably how many times? 8?
No, once.
8 times, Eric. Come on. Eric, you are a seasoned atheist. You're a full part-time atheist. Full part-time.
As opposed to what?
So in the workforce, part-time is about 30 hours a week, and then full-time is above 40.
Yeah.
But full part-time means you're just consistently working long hours. Eric has dedicated a lot of his life to atheism.
Yeah, for all the good that's done.
Hey, man, you know your stuff. I'll tell you that. All
right. Well, it's good to be acknowledged in one's own lifetime as knowing my stuff. But anyway, the title of our episode, I think we discussed it, was Is Religion on the Ropes? Well, we can answer that question right off the bat. Religion is not on the ropes and isn't going anywhere for the foreseeable future. In fact, it seems to have been a kind of sleeping giant that was always there, but it has been awakened or wokened, if you will. This happened in the late 70s, early 80s. It's full of fiery, manipulative leaders and fervent, passive-aggressive followers. But the stats do suggest that religion is on or in decline, and religious people, that is Christians, when you're talking about religion in America, you're talking about Christians, are acting like they have seen the writing on the wall and they do not like what they see.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why they are being so aggressive and assertive and obnoxious, if I may say so. What do you think?
I'll tell you what, Eric. One of my biggest hypotheses on this channel, and I probably say it every episode, I always make reference to the fact that you and me, our generations, boomers, millennials, we're a fart in the wind. We're fading away. We're growing up. I'm gonna be an old man soon. And now, you look at these kids on TikTok, and I've told you 1,000 times, I'm like, Eric, there's radicalization is happening to children. I don't know if the schools are doing it. I suspect they are. You know how I call everything commie bullshit?
Mm-hmm.
I found the right term for it finally. I was watching a Jordan Peterson
That
video.
was not the right term?
Cultural Marxism. That's what it is. That's what it is. Cultural Marxism is enveloping the youth. And have you ever heard the statement that communism is like the antithesis to Christianity?
No.
If you think about it, though, doesn't it sound pretty good? That's a good quote.
Classic communism embraced atheism. That was part of their platform or their ideology.
Yeah. And apparently private property.
And do you know why that is?
No, why is it? Oh, well, Enlightenment?
No, why communism associated itself with atheism, or why they were...
Oh, because communism is all about making people worship the state and brainwashing them, right?
Well, there are a lot of political systems like that.
Here we go, Eric. Peak professionalism. Peak professionalism. I can't believe it. I just lost in the middle of my sentence, Eric.
Well, it's just as well, because we're way off topic here.
Yes, let's go back to Christianity.
What's our topic again?
Religion is Christianity is fading. Like that John Lennon quote. John Lennon said, one day Christ will fade. And then
I didn't know he said that.
He said something like that.
Oh, well, one of the Beatles said, I guess it was Lennon, that we're more popular than Jesus, right?
Yes.
Is that what you're referring to?
Connected to that quote.
Oh, boy, what an uproar there was over that. That was practically the end of their career. For about a week.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing. They were burning books back then. When I watched...
Who was?
The Christians. Like, they were burning Beatle albums.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, everybody sees that and goes, they're the enemy, they're burning the Beatles, we love the Beatles. But I'm like, yeah, we need those people back. We need the book burners. We need the Bible huggers back. We need them, Eric.
For what?
Because I think we've agreed on this before. Eric, you're an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
You don't like Christianity.
I don't like any religion.
So, but I think you've agreed before that if it does fade away, society will collapse.
Well, that's one of the things I thought might come up in this discussion. I was prepared to discuss that, but more toward the end, because I mean we could talk a little bit about the statistics and a little bit about the way things are now, why they are changing if they are indeed changing, and if religion is fading, why is it fading?
I have a theory.
Go ahead.
Know about the what is it? Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah.
So, I started wondering the other day, and in case people don't know, I don't know when this church got popular. Maybe the early 2000s, around there, 90s, whatever.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Let's say 2010, 2015.
So they would go to the funerals of
and they weren't
Army
popular.
people.
They were notorious.
They were notorious. They were notorious bigots. They were kind of radical.
Very radical.
They would go to Army men's funeral and hold signs that says they're burning in hell and very homophobic and all that. I'm starting to wonder if that was a psyop, like a psychological operation, because that was implanted in everybody's mind.
Isn't that what they call a false flag operation?
Kind of like
it was a setup to make us think that's the way that we should feel about people like that.
Absolutely, and a lot of people when they think of religion and Christianity, they think, oh yeah, that Westboro Baptist. It was always in the news. Everybody was talking about it. It really ruined Christianity because these.
Well, it didn't do that all by itself, lad.
Okay. It's a theory. I'm working on it.
Yeah, working.
Doesn't it sound doable? Because sometimes I tell you my theories, Eric, and I see a twinkle in your eye.
Well, it's because you're starting to launch into one of your conspiracy theories again, and I'm a little
that,
full up with
that's
those.
That's not a conspiracy, though. That's like...
Well, no, it is. It is. There was a conspiracy to have people put on this show.
They didn't put on the show, but the media chose to keep showing it. Look at these people. Look at these people. The media is more powerful than you know, Eric.
Well, maybe it is, but in any case, the Westboro Baptist Church, well, they took a lot of heat for their lurid performances, and they were actually celebrating the death of American servicemen because they said it was God's punishment for our toleration for homosexuality and secularism.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm sure they were very sincere about that. And you could be right. They may have gotten more press than they really had coming. They weren't that big a thing. That church was never larger than about 20 or 30 people.
Exactly. And here's the thing. I'm convinced everybody my age knows about it. Because everybody talked about it. And it was always on the news. And when you see these things as a young kid, say you're 16 years old, you're flipping through the TV, and then you see these lunatics holding signs that say, servicemen are burning in hell, and then it plants a little thing in your head.
Well, of course it does, and that, for all I know, somebody may have made a particular point of that. So a little, angst and fury can be worked up on the other side. But before you go any further with this,
that's all I got.
Okay, so you could be right, but again, you're going to have to dig up some evidence. Okay. We need evidence. Okay. All right.
Another thing, Eric, Family Guy. You know that show?
Yeah.
Family Guy is quite arguably, it really is like the show of my generation. Everybody watched Family Guy. Everybody has seen every episode 1,000 times.
My buddy Mike loves that show. He keeps saying, I've watched a few episodes. I didn't do anything for me.
Well, somebody left a comment saying that we're Brian and Stewie from the show. And it was so funny because you are a lot like Brian from that show. It's really funny. He's like a writer. He's an atheist. It's so funny, Eric. But he's like kind of like an intellectual dude. But everybody watched Family Guy, and Family Guy had constant crapping on Christianity jokes. And when you're a kid or a young person and you're watching this offensive show, you get this feeling of like, ooh, this is kind of edgy. This is a pretty offbeat, raunchy show. But the jokes about Christianity constantly, it really is. It's brainwashing. That is the term, brainwashing, conditioning. Conditioning is a better word. But when so many young people are getting like lightly poked with atheism constantly, they often become atheists without even thinking about it, I think a lot of people today, they believe things, but they're not really sure why. And they do it to go along.
I'm sure there's a great deal of that out there among all ideologies.
Well, think about Trump. Like, I know so many people who don't know anything about politics, and that's fine, but they kind of just hate Trump by default.
I'm sure there's quite a bit of that too.
Because the media, it'll like slowly poke you, and then you got to admit that today it is so common to be an atheist, right?
I do not admit that.
Well, and I don't. You're reading about Christians all day, though. You read like Christian sites.
I'm sorry. What was our point again?
You scoot this over just a little. Sorry, man. This is professionalism at its peak.
Boy, I'll say.
I mean, that's fine. So you don't think Christianity is going away. So this is, okay, here, let me make a point here. I'm constantly watching conspiracy stuff, so it's always on my mind. I'm like, oh, this is that. Eric, you read atheist blogs, stuff like that? You probably even write atheist blogs.
Well, I've toyed with the thought of doing that, but I never punched through all the obstacles.
So in the days of personalized media, what we're living through right now, it was only 20 years ago that we all just got our information from the news on TV. But now, if you get on YouTube, the algorithm is personalized to what you like. You ever notice that? You get on YouTube, it shows you what you want to see.
Yeah, I have.
So you're watching a lot of Christianity and getting angry at it. So, and we can both admit that, like, I'm warranted in believing Christianity is fading because I don't see it anymore, and you're warranted to think it's not because you're constantly being bombarded with it. You know what I mean? We're both being deceived, technically.
Okay. I didn't know that you believe that Christianity is fading. It's possible that it is kind of fading. I mean, the only thing that we have to gauge stuff like this is cold, hard statistics. It's
okay.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify and qualify something as abstract as religious faith, but you look at church attendance, for example, which has been dropping off ever since the late 70s, early 80s.
All right, Eric, lay the statistics on me.
Well, okay, and I think we started tracking this particular statistic in 1937, and from that period, from about 1937 for 40 years to the late 70s, what we call regular church attendance was at about a little over at 70%.
So you'd still see like a church full of people in the morning?
No. I've been tracking this situation long enough that some of the blogs that I look at
more or less.
They show what?
Is it more or less?
More or less what?
Christian. So they're more in the church or less?
No, fewer people.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean apparently we can both agree on that.
Yes.
The blogs that I look at take a certain delight in showing us the inside of churches, and the pews are almost empty. I don't know whether to take that as very representative of what's going on or not, but this is what we're seeing.
Louis C.K. said that going to church these days is like going to a roller skating rink on a Wednesday night. There's only about 3 people.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, that's another thing. Is I'm really into stand-up comedy, and they're all atheists. But anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, you and I differ on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. If religion is fading in America like it is elsewhere in the civilized world, I think it has to be the fault of religious people themselves, and the people I hold most accountable for this are not the mainstream Christians, or what I call live and let live Christians, but these extreme Christians, these dominionists and the fundamentalists and so forth. They make such asses of themselves, and it's like they can see the writing on the wall that the religion is fading in America, and the slopes on the graphs that showed a downward trend on things like church attendance and do you pray more than at least once a day, and do you still believe in heaven and hell and all that other stuff? I don't know how to express this, but the trends are more pronounced for the younger people, yes. the younger incoming generation than for the outgoing generation. If you catch my drift, you can see what that implies.
Yes.
So it looks like this almost psychopathic reaction from the church, especially the conservative churches, the extreme right-wing Christians who still believe that this is a Christian nation, and they're being very active and very obnoxious because they can, they sense their own imminent doom or the doom of their faith. I don't know if that'll ever actually happen, but if it does, I think it's partly because Christians bring it on themselves.
Well, here's the thing. Do you think that America, and I'm talking real American values constitutionally, do you think, how people say that individualism is deeply rooted in the American way. It's like if you
I do
work
keep hearing
hard-
that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's true. But do you think Christianity is kind of like stamped onto the American?
Yeah,
constitution?
absolutely. Well, back in the days when America was discovered and founded, and we started building our own little civilization here, the Christianity was the default faith of the entire Western world.
Yes.
It still is. It's fading a lot faster in Europe and places like that than it is here. But it's still the dominant religious paradigm in America, and
So here's the thing. Will you admit, Eric, that everywhere Christianity goes, society flourishes, and civilized nations get built off of the Christianity and the churches?
no.
I think it does, Eric.
I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I'm saying that I don't see what Christianity has to do with prosperity.
Even if Christianity is BS and it's fake and it's just people pretending.
Yeah, I know. Beyond that,
But that's still a good thing. It's still good for people to have structure in their lives. They
Yeah,
have
it's
no
good-
community.
it's good to, yes, it is good to have structure, but I don't think that Christianity is essential for structure. It always has been, but it's mostly because so many people bought into it so completely that it had them buffaloed about their fate in the next life,
Yes, exactly.
Now, when it's easy for me to kind of fantasize about the doom of Christianity in our society, and that something like that may happen, but I admit that I don't really know what's going to happen after the fall of Christianity in the West. If
I
it
think we're starting to see it now.
could be.
Somebody made a good point that the further we delve into the future, the more we keep shifting left wing, just little by little. You know what I mean? Like in the early 1900s, the Democrats wouldn't have been okay with gays. There's no way. They would have been against it, wouldn't they?
Everybody was against gays that far back.
So if you look at it as like, this is history, a big block, and then we just keep going left wing, and more societal norms get broken down, more stuff that used to be taboo becomes acceptable. I would say millennials and Gen Z, it's almost ingrained in us not to be racist or
Yeah.
homophobic. Almost everybody my age is accepting of like the LGBT. But now the LGBT has gone too far. That's clear. It's clear they're going way too far. And now it's like, whoa, dude. Like we
Well,
can't even talk about
you
it.
better clarify what you mean by that. It's not.
Transgender children. There's so many of them now. It's like, let me make this point, and I don't want to go into like a political angry rant or anything. 2013 is when transgenderism hit the mainstream, right? With Caitlyn Jenner and all that. When that happened, Eric, do you remember? And I'm really not trying to crap on the LGBT community.
I know.
But they were like, just leave us be. Let us be what we want to be. Right? That's what they were saying. Caitlyn Jenner was making a statement. Hey, I'm a woman now. And everybody was... The conservatives were outraged, and the liberals were like, yeah, virtue signaling on Facebook. And they were like, let us be. Just let us be. That's all we want. Well, that's not all they wanted. Because it just keeps moving. They keep demanding more.
I agree.
And they're such a small minority, but they have so much control over the media narrative. Like Dave Chappelle just got taken down for making a joke. Like, come on. Some people need to realize that there's a famous quote. Those who you cannot criticize are the ones oppressing you. And we live in this world where people are crying that they're oppressed, but they're not. They are the oppressors. And they just made a law in America. I think it was America. It might have been Canada. Where if you are a therapist and you have a patient that thinks they're transgender, you are not allowed to talk them out of it. You can only talk them into it.
Into what? Into getting treatments
treatment.
to go trans?
So say you're my client, Eric.
Yeah,
and you're like, I've been putting on wigs. I've been watching Rocky Horror Picture Show, doing all the things that early transition people do, and then you start going, I think I might transition. And I'm a therapist guy with a bathrobe and a hat, and I go, oh, well, yeah, go ahead. That's all they can do now. So it's like, how much
You
more
mean
are
it? You mean it if some kind of professional advises them to think more about this, yeah, and maybe not do it, maybe not bend to some kind of social pressure that's out there on them.
Mm-hmm.
That professional is in trouble.
I guess they could lose their job.
That's I don't know how far it's gone. I know stuff like that is going on, and that sounds like something that would happen in Canada. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that stuff going on, and they're more woke than we are.
Canada is like the blueprint for progressivism. You know?
yeah, I guess.
Like that Trudeau guy is such a tyrant, dude. Every time he comes on camera, it's creepy. It's like a dystopian nightmare movie. He's like, we're going to lockdown. What a creep. And how did he get into power? He waved that little rainbow flag. That's what he did, didn't he, Trudeau?
I don't remember.
He was like, him and the New Zealand,
Ardern,
who's a man. We've talked about that. She's a man.
She's a man.
She's a man. I saw it. There's footage.
That's a serious charge. Can you support it?
I want to, but that's almost too conspiratorial for YouTube. There's a video of her, and it's flopping around in her dress. And I'm
What
like,
is?
Whatever,
Her dick?
Yes, her dick. It's flopping, Eric. I saw it. It's indisputable. And here's the thing.
You know she lives with a guy, don't you? And in fact,
she looks like a guy too, though. She does look like a guy.
Well, she doesn't look like a guy to me. Maybe I haven't paid enough attention.
So these are the only two options. Either she has a penis, or she didn't have pockets, so maybe she tied a string around her waist and had a little thing of hand
Wears
soap.
a dildo just to impress people.
I thought like hand soap or something. Like she invented like a string and it'll hang right down there, it'll flop around. I don't know, that's the only explanation, Eric. That's the thing about conspiracies. It's a video. You can see it flopping. It's indescribable.
Well, I was about to say, show that to me, but I'm not sure I want to see it.
I know. Nobody
No,
wants to see it.
I guess I should probably see that since you're making such a deal out of it. But
sorry for that little detour, but what I meant to say was Trudeau and Ardern, that's Canada, New Zealand, they ran as we are the progressive candidates.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
And now they are absolute tyrants. They are tyrants. It's really scary, Eric. And I don't know.
And that's another thing that's going on in New Zealand is something that has definite parallels in this country. Is not precisely the same thing, but the Aboriginal people of New Zealand were what we call the Maoris. I guess that's what they call themselves, and they were like New Zealand Aboriginals,
like tribe people.
Yeah, like the original tribal people, the Aboriginal people.
Yeah.
Well, they're trying to. There's this movement afoot in academia in New Zealand to incorporate Maori mythology into the science classrooms.
Oh my God!
It's called I forget. There's a Maori term for it that means way of knowing, and so they're talking about incorporating the Maori way of knowing into real science and saying it's just as good as science.
What?
Yes. What indeed?
We live in a clown world, Eric.
Yeah. Well,
this is why we have a podcast.
That's. But do you not see the parallel there between that and trying to bring creationism into the school classrooms?
I think that they should not do that. That's breaking the American constitutional way.
It certainly is.
You should not unless you want to go to a Christian school.
Exactly, which you are free to do.
But that just shows me hypocrisy because they're not going to teach the Bible in the school, but they'll take these weird tribe people and be like, yeah, let's put their bullshit baloney into the curriculum. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
God, what a weird
I don't know
thing.
how. I don't even know how they're going to do that. I don't think there is any way to do it. I mean, it's so Maori mythology and real science are so incompatible. All they can do is give the mythology some kind of honorable mention and move on. I don't know how they're going to manage that, but they seem determined to try.
I wonder how crazy their religion is. They probably.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I saw their creation myth summarized in one of these blogs I look at, and
the moon, this block of cheese.
Yes, yes. At one time there were the gods, and the gods were engaged in this great war with the giants, and the giants begat.
Well, that's kind of like Native American.
Yeah,
Native Americans,
well, of course.
They just worshipped whatever thing was in the area. Like, if they saw a stream, they'd be like, we worship stream. You know what I mean?
No. I know what you mean, but did you see this, read this somewhere? I don't know where. I don't know where Aboriginal. I don't know where nobody knows where Aboriginal myths originated from, because that's so far in the past, and they don't buy. None of them seem to have written records.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Whatever led to the adoption of these myths is gone. It's lost. It's down the black hole of time.
Well, you know what I think happened is so you know how these days we treat everybody mentally challenged, bipolar, schizophrenia. We didn't used to treat those people. They were just crazy, right? Like,
yeah. We just lock them up.
So Native Americans, my theory is that they would have a couple schizophrenics, because statistically you have to, right? Say you have 10,000 Native Americans, a couple of them got to be paranoid schizophrenic.
Bound to be, especially if they're repressed.
So this guy would just start babbling all sorts of craziness, and they'd be like, listen to him.
Oh yeah, okay. You're theorizing about the origin of Native American religion
in the most offensive way possible.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's entirely plausible to me.
It could be.
And hell, people who do that today. I've actually attended a service in which there was glossolalia, or speaking in tongues.
Oh yeah.
I've witnessed it. I've heard it. I lived with some people in California who were that kind of Christian.
Well, you know what's funny is, I think that's in the Bible, but American white Western people get really freaked out by that because it's foreign to them. It is kind of creepy.
It is creepy, and it is foreign to most Americans.
But
if it's Christian speaking in tongues, they can tolerate it.
Yeah, I think it's weird all around. They shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit modern Christianity.
Well, Christianity, these things that people say about certain religions, like Christianity shouldn't believe this, it shouldn't believe that. That's not real Christianity. They say they say the same kinds of things about Islam. These radicals and killers are not. That doesn't represent true Islam. Mm-hmm. This over here represents true Islam. Well, that might be true if, in the case of Islam, it might be true if Islam was the one true religion and their Allah was the one true God and so forth.
Yeah.
But if it isn't, if it's just another fraudulent, anachronistic superstition, as I believe they all are, then one man's Islam is just as good and just as valid as another's.
That is so true. That's so true in every religion. There's always been
every religion, exactly.
This isn't real Scientology. So, here's the thing. Oh my God, Eric, have I done it again? Did I just forget mid-sentence? So, okay, I've met Islamic people. I don't know if this is offensive, but Americanized Muslims. Is that offensive to say? Muslims that basically live...
It might be, but I don't care. Go ahead. I know what you mean.
So I've met the people...
There are such Muslims.
Americanized. They're basically just modern day American people.
Yeah, I've known some of those too.
I worked for Muslim people, and I absolutely loved them. I really liked them. They were such good people. Actually, and I know this is very uncommon for me to say this stuff, because I usually crap on stuff that's progressive. But I started working when I was younger at Dunkin' Donuts, and the owner's kid came in, and I'm like, oh, what a bastard this kid's probably going to be, because it's the owner's kid. And you know what he did? He walked up to me, I'm the new guy, and he goes, what's your name? I said, whoa. He just humanized me. He asked me for my name. And they were such a nice family. And one thing about Muslims that I'm kind of jealous of, they are extremely devoted to their religion. I don't know how they do it. Because it seems like in Christianity, the teenagers that are going to church, they're not thinking about God. They're thinking about getting laid and failing classes and all that stuff teenagers think about, whatever it is anymore. YouTube, the internet. They're not thinking about God. And that's true. A lot of the young people, they just half believe. But when you look at Muslims, they are oh, it's the one true religion, you know? Like, the kid was like 13, and he was like asking me for my vape and stuff, which is a sin, I think, in Islam.
No, I don't think it's a sin, but it was
probably
not. It was
illegal.
none of his business. Why? I'm
give
sure
him
he
that
was
vape.
very nice about it. But why did he ask you about that? Right off the bat, just having met you.
What, about the vape?
No, about what is your religion?
Oh, I don't think he asked that. I'm
Oh,
a
I thought you
curious
said he
dude.
did.
I think I asked him. I said, what's this Islam stuff all about? And he
Oh.
was like, it's the one true... He started going on a rant about how... And you know this, Eric. I know you're going to know this. But Islam is constantly making statements that it's scientifically proven. Like, one of them is the embryo.
Wait a minute. You're saying that Muslims make scientific statements based on the Quran that we know is true?
Exactly. Like, the Quran had all this science in it that wasn't from the time. Like, they said
Oh,
that
yeah.
Muhammad talked about the embryo, which was impossible to know back then. Something about mountains.
Okay, I have heard of that.
There's
yeah.
a ton of them.
Yeah.
So I think that draws a lot of people in when they hear that. Like, oh wow, look at this book, scientific, you know.
So it's like he was trying to convert you.
Yeah, a little bit. I had a Mormon do that too. I was like, dude.
Well, that's
not
what
gonna
Mormons
happen.
do.
I know.
Like Seventh-day Adventists.
If you want to know my opinion, Islam is not the one true religion. I think it's I think Islam ties in with Revelations, because I think Revelation says that people are going to be worshiping demonic gods, and I think that's what.
They
Islam
all
is.
say that.
That's what Mormonism is. Scientology is just brainwashing. But let me make a point here, real quick. Meditation is really popular with millennials, and you know why that is? It's because we're so anxious. Everybody's anxious, and it's because they're addicted to porn and YouTube and the internet. They're constantly getting bombarded with dopamine, so they have social anxiety. So a lot of people like to meditate. Every single time I've meditated, it was nothing happened. I just sat there.
That's always been my experience.
I think that sometimes when you meditate, you do go into an altered state of consciousness, and it is relaxing, but it's a very hollow and empty feeling, you know?
Well, I don't know. I know that there are people who are successful at achieving some higher mental state, or even what they call nirvana. And for all I know, they really feel that they're onto something. I also, the only other thing I know is that whenever I try something like that, it bombs.
Yes, I know. It bombs. It's supposedly it's all about not thinking and calming your brain.
Yeah.
But you know what I've been doing lately? Orthodox chants. I've been doing the Jesus prayer.
Oh yeah.
And it's really cool because it's like the Christian way of meditating, you know? Like sitting down and repeating a mantra, that's very relaxing. And I think that Christianity, there is something true about it. The feeling you get when you pray, it's very invigorating. It's very strange to me. It's like imagine you sit down and then you pray to God, but then you pray to Muhammad or whatever, and then you pray to L. Ron Hubbard or whatever. You would get different feelings from all the religions.
Are you saying this from personal experience? Have you tried praying to all three of those deities?
Absolutely.
Really?
I have. I used to be a Hindu when I was younger.
I did not know that.
Here's a Hindu mantra. Om Gam Ganapati Nama.
The point of which is what?
It removes obstacles.
Obstacles.
And you know what's creepy? I did that once. Om Gam Ganapati Namaha. And I had all these problems in my life, and they went away.
Just like that.
Yeah. But it was demonic, Eric.
Well, the problems didn't go away. It's you're stressing out about it when it went away.
I had a lot of obstacles back then. Like I couldn't sleep.
Of your own making, you think? Or
Absolutely.
Why was it so easy for you to dissipate these obstacles just from reciting this chant?
I began believing in myself. It was really weird, Eric. Like, I had a YouTube channel, and all of a sudden I started getting all this inspiration and, like, motivation. It was awesome. Real quick, are you still on camera? Okay. Cool. I got two cameras on. So I've experimented with Hinduism, Buddhism, all of them, to a little degree. And what I got was not as good as what you get with the One True Religion, which is
Christianity. Well, okay. I mean, if you tell me this, you sound very genuine when you make that claim. I don't have a theory to explain why one works so much better than any other for you, but it might have something to do with the fact that this is at heart, at root, in America's very soul. That is the dominant religious and spiritual paradigm in America. And before you ventured into Hinduism and Buddhism and that other stuff, you were aware of the Christian tradition in America. Your parents are Christians. I guess they are. I know your mom is. That could have had something to do with the fact that that's what you drifted toward, and you started out that way in life. I guess you did. Did you go to your mom still? Yeah. So you had Bible school and stuff
Every
like
week,
that.
yeah.
Okay, and you drifted away from that.
I did.
And then you drifted through some of these exotic Eastern religions. Then now you're back to Christianity.
Absolutely.
Did you? Okay. Well,
was
I'm
a
sure
weird transition
I'm sure it
there.
works for you, but it doesn't work for everybody. How do you explain that?
Like I said, Eric, I'm not saying it's a conspiracy, but when you look at the media, look in the TV and culture and movies, it's the slow boiling frog. You know that term?
Yeah.
That they have to do it slowly. The 90s just started slowly getting more progressive, and it happened so slow that nobody noticed it. Atheism became mainstream. And I think people started becoming atheists to be cool. It was cool to be atheist. When I was young, I was like a feminist hipster almost. I was like a feminist guy. I had atheists, all that, you know? And I really think that I was pushed into that by unseen forces in the media and the general liberal collective mind that is growing in this country. I don't think it's going to end well for Christians. Let me put it this way. You absolutely don't think Christianity is under attack?
Well, it's under attack,
It's
but
fading.
you mean systemic attack of some kind.
Kind of, yeah.
From within, from the power structure. Eventually, even there's not a politician in America today, hardly a politician, running for office on any level in this country who can do it as a religious unbeliever.
Yes. Wasn't Obama like the closest thing to that?
No, he was. I think he was born in. No, he was born in Hawaii. He went to school in Indonesia once for a few years. I think that's how they splattered him with that paint.
Obama, he's a fucking Muslim.
Yeah, they still think he's a Muslim.
Yeah. He could be, I don't know.
Well, he claims to be a Christian. Whenever he talks about religion, one thing I like about Obama is that he never talked about religion. I don't think politicians should talk about religion. That should be everybody's own individual business.
Yes.
Now that not only, they won't talk. Obama, most of the time, these people can hardly shut up about it. And when they're asked, they certainly assert that yes, I'm Christian. They all do that. They can't if they're not Christian. Jews are accepted within the ranks of power, and even some Muslims are creeping in here and there. But the worst thing you can be, the one thing you cannot be, and really in most segments of the country, is an atheist.
Really? Okay.
Absolutely.
So this is what I think. It feels like it's strange to me.
Did you know that it was against, you could not, by law, you could not run for office in this, we're talking, 18th century. You couldn't run for office if you were a non-believer.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We need to go back to that era.
Yeah, the good old days.
I think that,
That's why I brought that up, to
well, if you look
stoke a little nostalgia.
Well, if you look at people like Trump leaned into the religion harder than most presidents in recent memory. But he was like into that like stadium religion crap, you know?
Yeah, well...
So he went deep into it, and he conned his base by pretending to be a Christian.
Yes.
But Joe Biden, what's interesting about him is he's running as a fake progressive, you know? Black
a fake
matter.
Progressive?
Yeah, like all he has to do is say Black Lives Matter a couple times, and they'll vote him in. You know, oh cool, he said the thing I like. But Biden still has to pander to the Christians too, right?
Well, of course he does. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he does particularly. Yes, he has to claim. He has to claim to be a Christian, and that may or may not be genuine. But he does have to. And one of the things, the same thing that I liked about Obama is what I like. One of the things I like about Biden. He doesn't talk about religion. That's his own business.
I really think do what you want to do.
Yeah.
He should be able to do that.
Yeah.
And most progressives are atheists, right?
Well, I don't know a lot of progressives, so in fact I don't know any. Well, I do. My friends Tom and Chris back in California. They've always been woke, in fact.
Yes.
And they're not atheists exactly. Like Tom is actually contemptuous of atheism because he thinks it's illogical. And he's right.
Uh-huh.
You can't say definitively there is a God or there isn't a God. There's no God.
Yes, that is true.
That's his beef with atheism. And I don't know I think Chris is an atheist, but she doesn't talk about it much. The more liberal you are, it's certainly true that the more liberal you are, the less slavishly and mindlessly pious you're likely to be.
Yes, that is true. And I would bargain that most average people are liberals now. That's, you know what I mean?
Most average people are liberals?
Most people are like liberal by default. Like, the right wing feels like it's becoming smaller and smaller. It's, it does feel that way. But I would say you're
smaller numerically?
Yes. Well, maybe. Well, so this is my point is that take a college kid that doesn't know his ass from his elbow. He literally only knows about politics because of Twitter and YouTube. He's not into it. Your average American, your average young person right now is liberal by default, and they're atheist by default.
Well, could be. That ties in with the fact that certainly there's some correlation there, or seemingly some correlation between that and young people being quite noticeably less religious than the previous generation.
You know what I blame? Cultural Marxism. That's what it is. I'm so glad I learned that term because I can blame everything on it now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I guess I've got a feeling I'm going to be hearing that term a lot from now on. So what is cultural? What is distinct about cultural Marxism as opposed to what did you used to call it? Something communism.
Bullshit.
Communist bullshit. Okay. What's the difference?
Who's that famous conservative radio guy? He just died.
Rush Limbaugh?
Rush Limbaugh. Or no, there was one guy that blamed everything on communism. Was it Glenn Beck?
Oh, they always did that.
I believe it. I know what they mean when they say it. Like when you keep saying, basically a lot of stuff that's happening in the world, it just, it's wrong. You're like, this is wrong. Like, so cultural Marxism, this is going to be a terrible explanation because I didn't plan for it. But it's kind of
you always need to define and justify your terms, lad.
I got to get better at Well, that's why we have the podcast. You and I are skilled talkers because of this podcast, even though nobody watches it. So, this is my definition of cultural Marxism. Do you know what identitarianism is?
Yeah.
Collectivism.
Yeah.
So, the progressive left-wing cult, it all depends on social justice. Like, are you an oppressed class? Are you Muslim? Are you transgender? Are you? So these people feel like they're under attack, and I guess you can call them SJWs. But if you start listening to their politics and their theories, it is deeply rooted in Marxist theory.
Well, okay, you're going to have to elaborate on that a little.
So It's really hard to explain.
Yeah.
So the Bolshevik Revolution, didn't they take the lower class and they blamed everything on the rich? And it was a class struggle.
That's pretty much what it was, yeah.
And that's how they do it. It's a very effective way to rot a country.
Well, not only is it, would you call it effective way?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's effective and it's also right.
Marxism is not right, Eric.
It was righter than the rule of the czars, or at least it wasn't any worse.
Hundreds of millions of people starved because of it. The Bolsheviks.
Hundreds of people starved. Millions of people starved under the czars. I'm not defending communism. I'm just saying that under some circumstances, when you're living in the reign of the. Oh, there are all kinds of different ways to be a despot and a tyrant. The czars were tyrants.
Okay, so they were tyrants.
And they were aristocratic tyrants. You know, it was essentially an oligarchy or something similar to that.
Was it a Christian oligarchy?
Well, oligarchy basically means rule by the rich, rich and privileged. And
so maybe they had a good reason. But
yes, they had a good reason.
Well.
No.
It never turns out well.
Revolutions hardly ever turn out well. Most of them are very righteous.
And you know, it's when you look into Marxism, it's all about abolishing private property.
Yeah, well, that's
abolishing the family structure, which is scary because then everybody's like the little kids from 1984, knocking on doors, turning people into the secret police. So it abolishes private property. Kills the family structure, which is deeply rooted in Christianity, and I think it makes society flourish. I think Christianity and the family structure makes society flourish. And everything about communism is like the antithesis to Christianity. So nowadays, instead of the lower class, it's not a class game anymore. 100 years ago, they got away with saying, oh, it's the classes, the lower class. Now, they're doing the same thing, but they're doing it to women with feminism. They're doing it to minorities with Black Lives Matter, which is a Marxist organization. They're doing it with transgenderism. I hate to say it, but these transgenders are like very radical people. They do not like free speech, and they are going to keep nudging. They keep claiming, we're going to stop. Just give us, let us do this. It's never going to be enough. So they're taking culture and they're turning it into a Marxist rebellion. And these people are brainwashed. They're brainwashed. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have these Christian conservatives that are like, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. And they're
Christian conservatives?
They're not being left alone. They are the only ones left on the chopping block that you can insult. And that's unfortunate. And I hate to say it. But you are not allowed to criticize anybody in the progressive LGBT party, but you are allowed to freaking call somebody a white supremacist, terrorist, far-right person. And this is all, that's what it is. It's cultural Marxism, and it will be used in a violent revolution soon. I think it will. Because last year, the riots, that was insane what happened. How many cities burned? There will be another one. It's going to keep happening. And every time it's going to get a little bit more violent. It's going to get a little bit more extreme. Because these people don't believe in anything. They are nihilists. They don't believe in anything. There's no objective values or truth to their shit. They are just claiming to be the oppressed while they are oppressing people. They are shutting down websites. They are censoring the internet. And they're on a pedestal. They have all the power. And they cry oppressed every time. And people are getting sick of it.
That is one possible outcome. But there is a reaction already against the woke culture, which is part of this amalgam of hideous ideologies that you're talking about. I mean, you throw so many terms around it. Marxists use that in communism too. Use those terms a lot. I'm still not confident that you even know what that means. First of all, is there some difference between communism and Marxism?
Yeah, communism is like an economic theory, but Marxism is just sort of like the heart of this stuff. Like, critical theory?
What? Critical race theory?
Yeah, but critical race theory is based in critical theory, and I can't even pretend to know anything about this, But it seems to me that critical theory, you could apply it to everything. So right now in the country...
What does that mean? Critical theory? You mean you...
Here, I'll explain it. I'll try to explain it. So they take the minorities and they're like, oh God, these minorities are super oppressed. They need to fight back against the machine. That's kind of what they did with BLM. You know, they riled a bunch of people up and then they got them to burn stuff down. So I don't know, it's hard to explain because I'm not that smart, critical theory. But imagine the elderly, Eric. You could take critical race theory and make like critical elder theory.
Okay.
And what if the media just nonstop for a whole summer just only started talking about how elders aren't getting enough care, elders are being expelled from society, they're being abandoned. They could do it. They could rile people up for a movement, Elderly Lives Matter, and it would be critical theory. Does that make a little bit of sense?
Yeah,
okay.
All right, okay.
Okay. So this does apply to our topic. I know it sounds like we're going off topic, but...
What is our topic?
So we covered the fact that the Western Baptist Church was a conspiracy. Cultural Marxism, I hope I explained that semi-well. Native Americans worshipped the trees and stuff because it was just whatever was around. Family Guy was anti-Christian. South Park is anti-Christian. This stuff has an effect on people, you know? South Park is like a hip, cool show to watch, especially if you're a kid. They're cursing, they're being offensive. There's this underlying atheism in all of it, and I really think it's technically brainwashing people against Christianity. That's technically what brainwashing is. Yeah,
well, you could be right. I don't think if I hadn't met you or anybody like you, that might not have occurred to me. But I know that there's, you know, there are all these different cross currents of ideologies that are conflicting with each other out there and struggling for dominance. And when you got people producing shows like Family Guy, which as I say, I don't care for. Maybe I haven't given it a fair chance. I know South Park is pretty... I haven't seen that in a long time either. They sent something out there that makes them think, the producers of shows like that makes them think that there might be a market for a show with this kind of pathology or ideology, and maybe there is, and so they present it to them, and this reinforces the ideology of the viewers, which in turns reflects back on the producers, and they start going further and further in a certain ideological direction,
yes,
or something like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's, well, you know, that's unfortunate, but it's going to happen in the communication age, and I don't know if, I hope it doesn't go too far. It's probably, in many respects, obviously, it's gone way too far already. And maybe, you know, if enough rational minds eventually prevail, and it's hard to imagine the kind of social mechanisms that can make that possible, but I would hope that eventually reason will prevail over ideology and hysteria. I don't hold out a lot of hope for that, especially after a conversation with you.
So your definition of reason is technically atheism and agnosticism.
Well, I would say that atheism is part of it. I can't think of any reasonable, rational basis upon which to either base a religion or even give yourself over to the tenets of any religion. That religions, to me, are fundamentally anti-rational.
Yes.
That doesn't in itself make them bad. I know there are some people who probably lead as lives that are as good as they can manage because they've got some kind of religious faith going in them that tells them this is wrong and this is what you need to do. As much as I loathe religion, I do sometimes wonder what might happen if religion completely collapsed, and I don't know for sure that whatever replaced it would be any better, and I don't know the way religious people themselves talk about their faith and about how their faith sort of constrains them from doing certain things that are not good. One gets the sense after a while that they go on about that so much that I wonder what would happen if these people suddenly just lost their religious faith. That may be the one thin thread, and this is the way they seem to speak of it. My faith is the one thing that keeps me anchored to some moral standard, some moral grounding. And if that thread ever got severed, Jesus, I wonder what would happen. Well, I don't know if society would collapse. Maybe it would.
Well,
but I mean, there are so many people out there, even ostensibly religious people, who don't really take their religion all that seriously.
Yes.
So you can't, and I think we're used to that too.
But they still kind of stick to their core values,
Well, surely you don't mean all of them. I mean, there are all kinds of different people who are subscribed to the same religion, who behave quite differently.
Yes.
And which leads me to suspect that it isn't something about, it's not the religion that's grounding them in something, it's their own personal psychological proclivities.
Yes.
So and religion is just a way to put a nice little divine bow ribbon on it.
That is a good argument, Eric.
I'm not even presenting it as an argument. It's an observation. It's a theory. Yeah, an observation.
So here's the thing. Sometimes I like to think that I see the world from a big picture perspective. I don't know if it's because I'm a Sagittarius or whatever, but I don't zoom in on things. I connect everything in my mind. I look at the picture, and it often comes out as crazy because I sound like a crazy paranoid person a lot. But it's funny to me that now that atheism is mainstream,
it's not.
It really is.
I must disagree. It's kind of, I don't know. I wouldn't even say it's faddish among a lot of people. I think if you lean on these surveys, for example, if you lean on people to give you some answers about things like, are you religious? Most people are going to say yes. And based on you,
but they're not acting like it. They're sinning.
Well, it's not so much they're not acting like it. It's just that they're saying it, but there may be nothing behind it. We had a discussion briefly about what percentage of Americans would you say are atheists?
75%.
75%.
I really believe that. Yes. Okay, let me put it this way. Okay.
It's more like 5.
You really think so?
It's not what I think. It's what I see, and I'm dismayed
Everybody's an atheist, Eric. That's what I see. I think it's so common with millennials too.
Maybe all the atheists are too young to be interviewed. I don't know.
But at the same time, there is a growing movement, specifically Generation Z, that are going. They are hungry for religion. They really want it. They want.
Well, there you go.
That's why I really like Orthodox Christians, which I'm going to become one soon. I'm going to Divine Liturgy this week. So I really like.
Did that have something to do with Gus?
It does. He's like my spiritual advisor.
A little while ago, you didn't like the guy.
Well, he was always insulting our podcast, and I was like, dude, F off. We have a special show. We have something going here, Eric. It's just people don't know about it. But yeah, he got me into Orthodoxy. It seems to me that the Orthodox Christians are more strict and structured, and I really believe that young people are craving that. Because you know what dictates everybody's life now? Addictions. Porn. Every single millennial in Gen Z is a porn addict. They're addicted to YouTube and Netflix. It's all dopamine. And I look at screens as scrying mirrors. Did you know back in the day, to worship satanic stuff, you looked at a black mirror? So what are we looking at all day now? Black mirrors. It's satanic. It's demonic. And also, people are just living in sin. Sin has become so normalized that it's just weird to me that now it feels like society's collapsing, Society's collapsing just so happens to be when sin becomes normalized. And it feels like we're heading towards the beast system. You know about that?
Yeah, the reign of the Antichrist, The beast system. Well, I've never heard that term.
People don't know what it is, but I suspect that it's Google. Because 15 years ago, remember when you joined a website or like a forum, you would just sign up with a username? Just username, password.
I never joined one of those, but
Well,
okay.
now it slowly started to become, now you have to connect your email. Like YouTube, you used to just sign in with the username, but now your email is connected to everything. And now your phone is connected to the email that's connected to your bank, that's connected to your social media. We are building this system that we're not going to be able to get out of. And I really think it's the beast system. Because when you look at the Google logo and the Facebook logo, it's all Masonic symbols. It really is, Eric. That's not a fake conspiracy. You know that little F in the Facebook?
Yeah.
The Facebook, that's a Masonic logo. I don't even know if I should say this on YouTube. It's too sensitive because technically it could disperse or terror.
Well,
Okay, so we kind of touched on something. Can we end on one more topic that I really want to rant about?
sure.
Billie Eilish. You ever heard of her? She's a famous
I
musician.
don't think so.
Billie Eilish is easily the biggest influential artist out there right now. She is really kind of like the next Beatles. Billie Eilish mania. I think she's brilliant. I think I think she makes the most exciting music that's come out in years. I'm absolutely a fan. I really am. Everybody keeps saying that I'm like a gay douchebag for liking Billie Eilish. I don't give a shit. She makes good music. But she's very progressive because every artist is progressive.
Yeah, I
And
know.
progressives like porn. They think there is nothing wrong with it. And it seems to me that the conservative movement, a movement started a couple years ago, and I kind of try to avoid talking about this, Eric, because we have such a generational difference. It seems to me that people my age are more open about like their porn addictions and stuff. But I mean it when I say it, Eric. Everybody's addicted to porn, even women. And Billie Eilish, in an interview, she was on Howard Stern. She said that porn ruined her mind, and she wrote a song about it.
As a woman, I think porn is a disgrace, and I used to watch a lot of porn, to be honest. I started watching porn when I was like 11. I thought that's how you learned how to have sex.
And she said it taught her all the wrong things. Like, she was young, and she was watching porn. And porn is all fantasy stuff that triggers your, what do they call it, the reptilian brain? The heart, the disgusting part of your mind. So people go out into the sexual world when they turn 18 or whatever, and they think that all this weird BDSM stuff is normal, and that women should be choked and all that shit. So Billie Eilish stood up against porn, and everybody's going after her for it. Like, you know what I mean? And I really respect her, and I know that's a right-wing talking point, but it's, you know what I mean? So I was watching all these videos of people trashing Billie Eilish, and it was just nonsense. I'm really sick of science, Eric. You know that. You know that I hate science, and I really do hate it because this guy.
What's science got to do with this?
So there was this guy.
Science is satanic too?
This guy claimed that that porn wasn't addicting, and he was a progressive guy. He's like, no, porn isn't addictive. Scientifically, they have found that it triggers a part of your brain, but there's not enough studies to show that it's negative. And I'm like, no, dude, it is negative. Everybody knows it. Porn is horrible. I think it should be made illegal. And I think if you look at it from a Christian perspective, millions, perhaps billions of people are sinning every day watching porn. You know what I mean? It's so normalized, and it never used to be. Anyway, I wanted to go on that rant because it really upset me. And everybody on this channel knows I'm extremely anti-porn. So I think that is the most consequential sin that is enveloping everyone on the planet now. And people keep pretending it's nothing when it's not. You know? So
Well,
I thought that was interesting.
okay. Well,
So
I do not defend porn. I think that there's something kind
Will-
of kind
will
of
you-
kind of sick about it, and
Will you admit the progressives
sad and
defend
sick.
it?
What?
Do you think the progressives defend it more than they should?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because yeah,
I don't know how much they defend it, but I'm just not making the same connections that you are with some of
Yes.
this stuff. I mean, a lot of this has to do with, that it centers around celebrities and
yes.
so forth, and I'm not plugged into that. I have no interest in it, but
And if anybody's interested, because we'll wrap it up soon. I think we've been going for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
But there's a channel on YouTube called Unplug 'em, and it's what are black people Baptist? They're Baptist Christians or something.
well, most of them are Christians, and
But there's a specific black. I really like the black Christians because they seem really hyper focused on the same stuff that I'm interested in, like kind of like voodoo-y, like everything's demonic. They talk about how music is demonic, and I
Oh.
think it is. And this guy Unplug 'em, he makes these brilliant arguments. That say you're a modern day rapper. What does he rap about? He raps about materialism, sex, women. They objectify women. They do.
yeah, I know, yeah,
So, and
Like-
they have the big dreadlocks.
yeah.
That is satanic, and they fool people into thinking it's not. It is all rooted in New Age spiritualism. All this rap culture stuff is super demonic if you look into it. So, Eric, you want to wrap this one up?
Yeah, I think so.
What do you think of the background?
Well, that's
It's growing. every day.
it's a nice little collage. I got some. Why just two Beatles?
I ripped it out of a book.
That's the Hindenburg there, huh? Sort of a 3D,
Hindenburg.
like a what do they call
That's
this thing?
3D for anything. Led Zeppelin. Tony Sir. It's for me. This is just a bunch of people I'm interested in, but
Yeah.
we should put some of your favorite influential.
By the way, I did make an attempt to look us up on.
know.
I told you, yeah, sent you a text or something.
It's really hard to find us.
Really, it's still hard.
It's hard. Yes. It's.
What are we gonna do? I mean,
I don't know.
how do people find us at all? Whether
Okay.
they're looking for us or not.
Real quick. So I have a channel. It's called the Digital Dystopia. It has 130 subscribers. It was my main channel last year, but I got burnt out because I worked too hard. Last year I would spend 80 hours a week on a video, and I burnt myself out, so I had to stop. I'm moving our podcast to that channel. So 130 people that
Well, I thought that was our channel. You
No,
told me
I
to
made
begin
a
my.
second one. I made a second one, which only had 7 subscribers. Now I'm moving our podcast onto the main channel, but we have to be really cautious not to talk about say certain words, because what happens if you start saying these trigger words, the algorithm will hide your channel, and it's really hard to find our podcast. Because one episode we talked about the New World Order. That's what happened. And then all of a sudden we can't find. It's so frustrating. Anyway, have a
God,
good one, folks.
yeah.